In the future, we see a simulant development company Nexera. Evan plays piano while his wife Faye is painting, and then they make love and leave with their robot Lisa. On the way, their car hits a truck and Evan wakes up realizing it's just a bad dream. During breakfast, Evan tells Faye he had that dream again, but she tells him not to talk about this. Agent Kessler works in artificial intelligence enforcement. Kessler sees the case file of a simulant Esme who has been offline for 3 years. Kessler's friend calls him to meet the district where he can find Esme. Kessler reaches there and his friend leads him to the building. He sticks a bubblegum and knocks on the door. Esme comes out and he asks her to put on the bracelet, but she twists his hand and drags him and then throws him down the stairs. Esme runs away and Kessler asks his friend to find her. After seeing her for a while, Kessler shoots an electromagnetic pulse to freeze every simulant. They catch her on a scooter, put a bracelet around her neck and take her away. Kessler then goes to Esme's apartment to check and the owner tells him that usually nobody visits except Mr. Rosen, her neighbor. Later, Rosen comes to see her but is shocked after seeing Kessler. Rosen asks about Esme and Kessler tells him she is a simulant. Rosen leaves and Kessler tears up a sketch and leaves. Evan tells Faye he made a reservation tonight but she refuses. Evan insists and she agrees. Inside the Ace lab, Tasha opens Esme's heart chip to analyze the data. On the other hand, Supervisor Abinger orders Kessler that you can only use EMP in an emergency state. Kessler tells him she didn't follow his commands and attacks him and tries to assault civilians. Kessler tells him that she can think for herself and has drawn sketches of her neighbor which they need to investigate. Abinger asks him if she isn't registered with that guy then you don't need to go after him and leaves. Tasha completes the debug information and sees Rosen in her memories. Kessler asks her for the information and she tells him someone redefined her chip. Kessler recognizes Rosen and Tasha says he's all over its memories, and Kessler asks Tasha to call Nexera to find information about Casey Rosen. When Tasha asks him about the full data wipeout, Kessler stops him from doing this until they find who did this to it. Kessler then goes to Rosen's apartment but he leaves. Kessler searches the Nexera database but can't find him. He finds a book, goes to a bookshop and asks the seller about Rosen's details. After seeing his sketch, the bookseller tells him that the man's name is Desmond Hahn, not Casey Rosen. Then Hahn comes there and starts running after seeing Kessler. Kessler chases him but he somehow dodges him and runs away. On the other hand, Evan and Faye have dinner outside, and after they come back home Evan again has the same dream and sees himself sitting in the accident car. Faye watches her past videos and then goes to take a shower. Evan also comes there and starts to kiss her but she stops him. Then she takes him in front of the mirror and presses his ear, and here we know that Faye's actual husband is dead in a car accident and it's his clone. Faye takes him to the room where he sees Faye's simulant clone and she tells him we get you in her before. Simulants can sync their owner memories, and when Evan died in a coma Faye turns on his clone. Rosen arrives at their house and she quickly turns off her simulant and goes to meet him. A hologram of Nexera informs simulants that they cannot harm humans, transform themselves, or disobey their master's orders. Kessler goes to Nexera to meet the company's president who is telling people about their 7th generation simulants. Rosen is checking Evan and asks Faye when he was activated. Faye tells him after the death of her husband. She tells Rosen that he didn't know that he is a simulant until today but he was having dreams about Evan's accident. Rosen tells her that you send it to my residence for a while and I will send it back to you after making some changes. Faye asks for time to think about it and Rosen gives her his card and leaves. Kessler asks Higashi about Desmond Hahn, and she tells him Desmond worked here for the development of AI's 6th generation. Desmond resigned after some time because they couldn't reach an agreement, Higashi says. Kessler then listens to his son's messages looking at his pictures of who died a year ago. On the other hand, Faye now decides to leave Evan with Rosen and she takes Evan to the apartment where she booked a room for him. Evan tells Faye he wants to stay at home with her but she tells him to stay and leaves emotionally. Sometimes later, Rosen visits Evan and tells him I know you are a simulant, and Evan asks him did Faye send you? Rosen tells him Faye wanted you to shut down but I insist her to bring you here. Evan asks him to leave but Rosen tells him I can help you to get Faye back, and Faye goes to meet his friend and asks him to bring the auctioneers for her paintings. Kessler sees Rosen sitting in a van on a CCTV camera, but when he searches the vehicle's license plate, there is no record of him. Kessler watches Esme's videos and then asks her about Rosen's location but she tells him I don't know. Kessler reads her quotes in which she wrote about intercourse with a human and he tells her you love him and trying to protect him. Kessler threatens her that if you don't tell us his location, we'll erase your memory and sell you to someone else. After thinking for a long time, Evan goes to Rosen and asks for help to get Faye back into his life. Rosen tells him I'll restart you to remove all the useless coding and cognitive restraints to set you free. Rosen removed its chip, made some changes to its core memory and removed all the protocols. Evan wakes up and asks Rosen about the changes. Rosen tells him you are unmastered and now nobody can control you. Rosen tells him you're free now but you have to learn some things to be human and gives him some books to read. Rosen takes him to the nightclub to expand Evan's humanity. Kessler sees Evan with Rosen and after finding his ID Kessler sends a message to Faye to ask some questions about Evan. He then sees another simulant who looks like Esme with the same ID. Rosen meets Esme's clone and tells her that Nexera is going to update their 7th generation OS in the next 3 days and they need to access the security key to stop the update. The simulant asks him how and he tells her they got Esme and now coming for me so they need to do this tonight. Rosen kidnaps a Nexera's engineer Sadish and asks him for the security key but the man refuses to tell him. Rosen beats him and Sadish log in his ID with the key fob and then Rosen uploads the revised software patch. In 3 days all the simulants will be free and will live like humans. Rosen asks the girl to lock Sadish in a container until the update and leaves. Kessler finds Rosen's location and reaches there. They get inside the container and see a simulant escaping. Kessler quickly launches an EMP and catches the simulant. They don't find Rosen but find Sadish who is injured badly. At the lab, Kessler asks the simulant what Rosen's purpose is and she tells him Rosen wants us to be free. Kessler gets angry and asks for his location but she self-destructs and seeing this, Abinger orders Kessler to find Rosen and shuts down Esme. Evan visits Faye but she tells him to go back because she got a call from AICA and if they find out you're here they'll be imprisoned. Evan plays piano and Faye remembers her time with husband and then they both start making love but Faye stops telling him you are not real. Kessler takes Esme's fish tank to make her impress but she tells him I don't know Rosen's location. Faye is at the auction and asks her friend not to sell her last painting because it was the last one she painted before her husband's death. Faye and her friend are talking outside her home and Evan sees them and Faye asks her friend to leave. Evan gives her a bouquet and asks her I want to be with you but Faye tells him you're not my husband. Evan breaks the glass and Faye asks him shut down but he doesn't and leaves while Faye is shocked to see this. Faye calls Kessler to inform him her simulant is staying with Rosen and gives him the address. After Kessler leaves Esme calls Rosen and informs him they're coming. Rosen shuts down his system and goes to Evan's room while Kessler also arrives to catch him. Rosen asks Evan to leave this place but he wants to go to Faye. Rosen tells him he changes other simulants too and if AICE catches you they will destruct you. Kessler and co go inside Rosen's room but nothing except computers. They also check Evan's room but they both escape from there. Kessler finds out that Esme informs Rosen and he orders Tasha to wipe out her memory to prepare for auction. Esme cries but Kessler gets angry and Tasha restores her system which removes all her memories. Kessler calls Faye and asks where Evan can hide and she gives him the location while Rosen and Evan also reach the cottage. Evan tells him he wants to go to my wife but Rosen tells him to stop because if he goes there the police will arrest him. Evan asks him how do you does all this and he tells him I have modified Nexera's 7th generation so that every simulant is free which will be completed in the next 5 hours. Kessler reaches and Rosen comes outside and Kessler asks him to surrender. Evan also comes out and they start fight. When the gun goes off, one bullet hits Rosen and one hits Kessler but instead of blood, Rosen's body uses liquid, revealing that Rosen is also a stimulant. Evan throws Kessler away and Kessler runs off to save his life. Rosen asks Evan to let him go but he starts chasing him. Wounded Kessler reaches inside a house to hide but Evan finds him. Evan asks him do you believe in soul? Kessler tells him after his son died his belief in the soul was finished and he tells Evanum going home. Kessler leaves and crawls due to the pain and dies in the cold, while Rosen's body is also damaged. Evan comes back to say goodbye to Rosen and the entire system of simulants has been restored. Evan leaves and outside he sees Desmond Hahn. Hahn comes inside to see Rosen and appreciate him and Rosen dies. While Faye is swimming, Evan comes there to talk to her but as she touches his ears to fuse him Evan kills her in the water. After killing her Evan goes to the room and turns on Faye's clone to spend his entire life with her. In the end, Esme is sold out in an auction and we see the buyer is Desmond Hahn. He gives her a necklace and leaves with her. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more videos like this.